Hello. Within this presentation, Harry McGindle and I will be exploring the challenges educators face when working with students who have ADHD, from classroom behaviours that are often misinterpreted to difficulties in academic development and the need for tailored learning strategies. Understanding these obstacles is key to fostering inclusive and supportive learning environments. By addressing these challenges with informed strategies, we can empower both teachers and students, ensuring that ADHD learners have the tools they need to succeed. So, what actually is ADHD? Well, it is known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it affects millions of individuals worldwide. ADHD is more than just difficulty with focus. It's a complex neurodevelopmental condition that influences attention, impulse control, and activity levels in ways that differ from the general population. ADHD is commonly diagnosed in children, but it doesn't disappear with age, it evolves. Many individuals carry their ADHD traits into adulthood, adapting in unique ways to manage their symptoms while also embracing their strengths. Understanding this condition is key to creating supportive learning environments and inclusive communities. Generally, ADHD is typically categorized into three broad types. The first being an inattentive type. Individuals here experience difficulty sustaining attention, following through on tasks, and managing organization. They may often appear forgetful and distracted, leading to struggles in school, work, and relationships. The next type is hyperactive impulsive types, categorized by excessive activity, restlessness, impulsive behavior, and difficulty in self-regulation. These individuals may act without considering consequences, interrupt conversations, or struggle with waiting for their turn. And lastly is a combined type of the both. The most common presentation where both inattentive and hyperactivity impulsive symptoms are present in varying degrees. So, what causes ADHD? Well, it's a multifactorial with genetics, neurological structure, and environmental influences playing a role in its development. Studies suggest differences in brain function and structure, particularly in areas responsible for impulse control, executive functioning, and attentional regions. Genetics is a significant factor. Through external influences like prenatal toxins, premature birth, and early childhood, experimental exposure may also contribute to ADHD symptoms. ADHD isn't just a weakness, it's a unique strength. While ADHD can present challenges in school, work, and relationships, it also is associated with remarkable strengths, being creativity. ADHD individuals tend to think outside of the box, approach problems from unique angles, and generate innovative ideas. Hyperfocus. When deeply engaged in an activity, people with ADHD can enter a state of intense concentration and excel beyond expectations. And high energy and passion. Their enthusiasm fuels dynamic thinking and adaptability, making them resourceful and resilient. So how do we manage ADHD? Well, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to ADHD management. Treatment and support are individualized, often including behavioral interventions, which can improve focus and impulse control, medication options, environmental modifications to create structured routines and organizations, and support from educators, employers, and family, ensuring ADHD individuals thrive in their environment. So, ADHD is not a limitation. It is a different way of processing the world. With the right strategies, awareness, and support, individuals with ADHD can unlock their potential and thrive. Whether in education, employment, or social settings, our role is to ensure equitable opportunities for ADHD learners and professionalism, embracing their strengths while addressing their challenges.
When we think about students who have ADHD, we often center the conversation around what the challenges are and what needs to be fixed. But what if we sort of shifted that lens and had a look into what should be celebrated, being the strengths? Now, 3 strengths that stand out when we speak about students and learners with ADHD. 3 ones that come to mind are creativity, the ability to hyperfocus, and resilience. Now, these are 3 crucial things for any learner to possess, but specifically for students with ADHD, these are 3 things that come very, very natural with the hardships that they experience. Now, when we think about creativity for a student is the ability to see beyond what you are doing. It's the ability to see beyond the page you're reading, the equation you're completing. It is the ability to see beyond what you're doing. Now, with ADHD, often have curious minds, fluid minds, and they sort of pick up on patterns and habits that maybe mainstream students don't have. So not only can they provide a diverse sort of creativity in their classroom, but they can also provide a sort of lens that is very imaginative and very rich in storytelling and, as we said before, creativity and almost a little bit philosophical. So the ability to visualize and the ability to sort of connect on a deeper level. Students with ADHD are quite confident with that, generally speaking. Now, the ability to hyperfocus, this is something that is contextual. This is when something resonates deeply. So when a student with ADHD, they might finally understand a numeracy equation and they're understanding the concept of it, and they just want to spend 10 minutes focusing on that. Everything around them goes mute. They just want to focus on that, and that's hyper-focusing. They understand, they've got the confidence, and they just want to focus on that. Now, this does ebb and flow. As we know, ADHD is an attention-based learning disability, or disability in general. So it does ebb and flow, but when it resonates, and they can lock in and they can feel the confidence and focus on that. Now, in relation to learning behaviours and speaking about that and confidence, we do think about resilience and how it isn't easy for a student with ADHD to show up for school because they're constantly questioning what they do, and they need a growth mindset. And that is really, really crucial in learning because resilience is getting through the anxiety of, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right track? Am I doing the completely wrong thing? Is my thinking, oh my God, I just missed it? Like, there's so much anxiety for a student with ADHD, and the resilience really shows the embodiment of the growth mindset. So when it comes to funds of knowledge, this is when we start to think about how the literacies that students are bringing to school are developed in the world that they are living in. So they bring these literacies to school. Now, these literacies tend to be creative. They tend to be they work together, but it's more about celebrating the strengths that the students with ADHD already bring to school. We start to think about kinesthetic knowledge. Now, this is thinking with the body. That is what kinesthetic knowledge is. Now, many students with ADHD process the world on a physical level, thinking best when they can create, when they can build things, when they can act, when they can sort of show their understanding through expression. Now, when it comes to literacy for that could be acting out what you understand about a book or what you understand about a story. It could be acting that out or doing a role play or walking through the plot or that sort of thing. In numeracy, this might be counting with blocks. It might be counting with fake money or counters or, using blocks for measurement, that sort of thing. Another fund of knowledge is oral communication and storytelling. Now, this is when we start to think about the idea of students with ADHD speaking rapidly and thinking rapidly, and oral communication allows them to sort of have a bit more clarity. ADHD students and people tend to be fast talkers, and it might be a struggle to sit and write and be collected and just, tell a story in that way. But when it comes to oral literacy, storytelling is naturally and commonly a strength, generally speaking. Now, this could be around performing ideas in literacy. It could be, as we said before, sort of tied in with kinesthetic, the oral performance of, speaking or being a character or, performing their ideas. But in numeracy, it could be explaining the idea, walking through the problem, talking through the problem, explaining why they think that, how they think that, just for a bit more clarity, because the oral literacy helps them think on a clearer level. Now, when it comes to technological fluency, it is a common thing with students who have ADHD that they resonate more with the digital world. they're digital navigators. So this is sort of solving problems in real time. You could say, they could be building something on Minecraft to show their understanding. They could be creating a video or showing their learning in that way. And these are, in literacy, it could be speech to text or creating a digital story. In numeracy, it might be a math game. It might be a animation to explain a concept. When it comes to print literacy and students who have ADHD, we start to think about the challenges there, because students who have ADHD struggle with attentional regulation. They struggle to keep up. But also, a study that was done by Amanda C. Miller found that students with ADHD spend so much time on just reading the words rather than understanding what the content is. Now, this study also found that students with ADHD can generally read at a grade level. However, their comprehension is not usually at a grade level, which really says a lot. They may be able to read the literacy, but they cannot understand on a deeper level in that moment. It takes scaffolding. It takes, different sort of breaking down of the content rather than an instantaneous understanding as they read. So this relates back to the inability to hold and manipulate information and further demonstrate an understanding. When it comes to numeracy, students who have ADHD may find themselves struggling with numeracy-based issues. Now, a significant issue when it comes to maths and sort of procedural mistakes is the idea of multi-step equations. So a step-by-step sort of do this and then do that and then do this and that sort of thing. That is generally challenging for a student with ADHD because the impulsivity, the ability to retain information for their short-term memory, that is a very, very tricky thing for a student with ADHD. And there was, in the Journal of Learning Disabilities, there with the author Rodriguez, and this was an article that was made in 2015, there was a passage there that was speaking about how students with ADHD make significantly more procedural errors than neurotypical peers. So this is when we start to think about math disabilities and math disorders. There is a common math disorder that is aligned with ADHD, and Frontier's study in psychology found that 31% of ADHD children have this learning disability in mathematics. It's dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is known as dyslexia in math. So it's the sort of inability to process numerical information. As we said before, dyscalculia is almost a math dyslexia. It's the inability to process information numerically or have numeracy fluency. And a study done in 2018 found that 31% of ADHD students have dyscalculia. Now, this is something that I find interesting myself as a learning support officer at a secondary school who works with kids who have ADHD. I would say around 60% of the students I work with who have ADHD have dyscalculia. Now, in maths, this is obviously because of the effects of working memory, the attention to detail, and the processing speeds. It is really tricky to retain the math techniques and the multi-step problems and all of that. And, this can manifest onto issues in adult life with time management and money and measurement in general, And not only is this a disability that affects, neurologically, but also psychologically as well. Math dyscalculia, as someone who had this math anxiety in school, dyscalculia does create math anxiety.
When instructing students with ADHD, educators consistently face numerous challenges that can influence instruction and learning outcomes. The first of the major challenges is misinterpretation. ADHD frequently occurs in combination with depression, anxiety, or learning disabilities. This brings forth symptoms of classroom behaviours which teachers might misinterpret as disobedience or laziness when actually the student is coping with neurological and psychological deficits which manifest physically. Being mindful of this is vital in order to provide the support that is needed. Academic achievement is another significant barrier. Individuals with ADHD do poorly with memorization, and this damages them on exams. Without required accommodation, standard work becomes too strenuous. Identifying mainstream standards with learning diversity is just as challenging. The teacher must tailor lessons to meet all students while being equitable and inclusive. This means modifying tasks in a suitable way and addressing behaviour expectations without delegitimizing the student's needs. Lastly, inadequate training in learning diversity can hinder teachers from effectively supporting ADHD pupils. Inadequately trained teachers must not be able to create effective adjustment plans or individualized learning plans. Tackling such issues through training, accommodation in the classrooms, and increased understanding of ADHD can help teachers build an environment favorable to success for all learners. The first approach to aiding ADHD learning I'd like to discuss is differentiated instructions. This strategy adapts the learning experiences to meet the diverse needs of students, in particular those with ADHD. Traditional teaching methods often assume a one-size-fits-all approach, but ADHD learners require a responsive and flexible environment that accommodates their strengths and challenges. Through differentiation, teachers can modify content, instructional processes, and assessment methods, making education more accessible and effective for all. A study by Gibbs highlights that Australian teachers who use differentiated learning strategies often observe higher participation among ADHD students and fewer behavioural disruptions in class. Differentiated instructions allow teachers to adjust lessons by incorporating visual tools, structured routines, and responsive assessments, making learning more engaging and attainable for ADHD learners. Bargave emphasizes the importance of multisensory instructions, active learning, and breaking tasks into smaller, manageable pieces. ADHD students often struggle with traditional print-based learning, but experimental approaches such as manipulations for maths, audio books for reading, and movement-based learning enhance focus and retention. However, some educators report challenges in using multisensory methods daily, particularly with standardized curriculum constraints. Further supporting this, the Australian Journal of Teacher Education confirms that systematic differentiation significantly improves academic achievements and engagement. ADHD students benefit from personalized learning tracks, but critics argue that effective differentiation requires substantial teacher training and resources, which many schools struggle to provide. So, how does differentiated instruction support ADHD learners and educators? Well, by integrating differentiated instructions into the classroom fosters inclusivity while reducing stress for educators. Some of the advantages include improved engagement through active, hands-on learning experiences, fewer classroom disruptions as teachers' style aligns with ADHD learners' cognitive strengths, increased teacher confidence in supporting diverse learning needs, better student outcomes as tailored strategies enhance motivation and participation, investing in teacher training and adaptive strategies ensures long-term success for both educators and students. So by incorporating this strategy, we create learning spaces that are equitable, engaging, and supportive for all students. Another strategy is multisensory learning. Multisensory teaching engages multiple senses such as sight, hearing, touch, and movement to strengthen memory, understanding, and motivation. For ADHD learners, activating more than one pathway to the brain creates deeper connections with information, making it easier to process, retain, and engage with learning materials. According to Main, multisensory learning activates more regions of the brain, leading to better academic outcomes. This means that students are not only learning through listening or seeing, but actively participating, whether through movement, tactile experiences, or hands-on activities. These realistic and active methods are particularly impactful for improving literacy and numeracy skills. A systematic review by Perishable found that multi-sensory strategies significantly boost academic development in students with learning disabilities. The research shows a 25% improvement in reading, writing, and math skills among students who engage in multisensory activities. Additionally, ADHD learners are found to benefit most from movement-based and touch-based learning methods, which help maintain focus and increase retention. However, critics argue that seamlessly integrating multisensory techniques into standardized curricula possesses challenges. Traditional teaching routines often dominate, making widespread implementation difficult. Further supporting this, the Queensland Department of Education conducted studies emphasising the importance of sensory interventions in learning for ADHD students. Their findings highlight how auditory interventions, alternating seating and activity breaks, significantly enhance attention span and engagement. Creating a multisensory learning environment with visual aids, movement-based activities, and structured sensory input allows ADHD learners to process information more effectively while sustaining focus. So, how can multisensory learning benefit learners and educators? So, by incorporating multisensory methods, educators can create structured, engaging classrooms that support ADHD learners while also reducing teacher stress. Some of the advantages are more interactive and engaging experiences through experimental and participatory learning, greater comprehension by stimulating multiple senses during instructions, and also reduced cognitive overload, making learning more accessible and manageable for ADHD students. What I'd like to talk about here is how behavioural reinforcement can support ADHD learners in classroom environments. These strategies are based on the principles of apparent conditioning, where positive behaviours are strengthened through reinforcement while undesired behaviours are minimised. Research has shown that ADHD students respond differently to rewards compared to neurotypical students. This means that traditional reinforcement techniques may not be as effective for them. Understanding how ADHD learners process rewards is crucial in developing strategies that enhance motivation and engagement. According to Tripp and Wickens, children with ADHD tend to seek immediate gratification, making positive reinforcement a key tool in behaviour management. Rather than relying on delayed rewards, educators must use consistent and immediate reinforcement to maintain motivation. Additionally, a study published by Springer's Journal of Abnormal Child Psychology examined reinforcement contingency learning in ADHD students. Interestingly, their findings challenged previous research, indicating that ADHD learners do not exhibit an acquisition deficit with partial reinforcement, nor do they struggle with behaviour persistence. Instead, gradual reinforcement intervals help maintain engagement over time. Further supporting this, Attitude Magazine highlights that while rewards work effectively for ADHD learners, they are often temporary. If rewards are delayed or removed, ADHD students experience a lag in dopamine messaging, which impacts their ability to stay motivated. As a result, continuous schedules of reinforcement provides the necessary feedback incentives to sustain engagement. In terms of helping our learners and educators, implementation of behavioural reinforcement strategies, educators can create structured and supportive learning environments that encourage ADHD students to thrive. The benefits include improved attention and interest due to immediate and consistent reinforcement, enhanced self-regulation through gradually increasing reinforcement intervals, reduce impulsivity as structured reinforcement fosters predictability and organising in learning. So by incorporating behavioural reinforcement strategies isn't just beneficial for ADHD students, it's transformative. It allows educators to create classrooms that are more inclusive, structured, and conducive to learning. As research continues to evolve, we must adopt approaches to cater to the unique needs of ADHD learners, ensuring they receive the motivation and support necessary for success.
When it comes to technology-assisted learning and that approach to ADHD learning and the learning style of a student who has ADHD, we start to think about how this pedagogical approach is designed to provide maximum support and effect. Now, a McKenzie and Ferrari article in 2017 found that it isn't a substitute for conventional interventions, but it's an augmentation for them, so learners with ADHD can experience the learning environment that they deserve and have the support that they require. Now, digital technologies, generally speaking, I have found as a learning support officer who works in a secondary school with students who have ADHD, I have found that students work better when they are working digitally. Now, I know that's a contemporary thing. It can be controversial because there are so many distractions on a laptop. But here's why it's beneficial for a student who has ADHD. We start to think about the idea of personalization. Now, that is an incredibly powerful thing in all students' learning. The idea to personalize your work, put your name on it, own it. But for students with ADHD, they are conditioned to the idea that one size does not fit all. So when it comes to a student working digitally and taking control over the font, over if it's a Word document or if it's a PowerPoint or if it's a video, we think about literacy. Are they showing a video reflection of what they are, what their chapter summary is, or that's just an example. They're taking ownership of what they understand, and that's them demonstrating their learning. And then we start to think about the stimulating a multisensory input idea of that. So making learning tangible. Now, this is not only something that's beneficial for the student, but beneficial for the teacher as well, because it's putting the ADHD student in their most comfortable position where they can connect on a multisensory input and tangible level. You're seeing the sounds and the colors and the different motions and the flashing lights and all of that. And they're connecting to apps and different, games and audiobooks, whatever it may be. The ADHD student is connecting to that on a tangible level and giving the best work to the teacher. Now, in literacy, this could look like text to speech. It could look like a video-based chapter summary. It could, in numeracy, it could be a gamified math game or, an animation to show mathematical understanding. The idea of making it a tangible thing and the multisensory input helps a student with ADHD connect to their work, personalize it, and show their understanding and demonstrate their understanding with a lot more clarity because they are comfortable with what they are doing. A very important thing to know with these learning styles is that it doesn't make the learning more fun. It makes it more accessible, which is crucial for a student who is in learning diversity.